Okay.
So there we go. Welcome to our second meeting. So far from the Twitter poll, it sounded like women in IT was the favorite on there. And what I am proposing that we talk about today is Paths to Being an IT Pro. And I have a couple of resources. I have a couple of different things that I can share that I've been doing some research on, but I'd also really like to hear from all of you. So one of the things that I will start with is a poll. And oops, there. So I'm curious if you can vote on the Skype poll, if you have the full client up, which one of these would you say best describes you?
Okay.
Okay, so a few people in actual IT pro work, and I'm just broadly defining that as, you keep stuff up and running. Obviously, there's a lot of different aspects to that one. And then, like, I consider myself in something that is related to tech since I work as a program manager on Microsoft Intune, but I know we also have trainers, we have technical product market managers, we have technical writers.
I'm a consultant and I'm a trainer and a technical writer. So I went for the first option, but I also qualify for the second.
Okay, great. Anyone else want to pile in with, unfortunately, these polls don't give us multiple choice. Oh, let me, I can change this so everyone can see the results. There we go.
I'd say I'm a Jill of all trades. I'm the only IT person in our small company outside of our developer. I'd say I'm like your typical systems administrator, but do a bit of, the little bit of training, like a little bit of everything. So
Okay.
Jill of all trades instead of Jack of all trades.
That works.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to weigh in with?
Yes, this is Adrian. I probably mostly do IT pro stuff, but it's same. I do training and some development and anything that is required.
Okay. Cool. If anyone else wants to vote real quick, I'm going to just flip the poll to another one. So what I'm curious about, from our first meeting, it sounded like a lot of people were accidental admins, but a couple people had done some other things to get there. So for me, I was in the right place at the right time. I just kind of fell into doing technology from doing something else. Never thought that I would end up at a place like Microsoft. But it looks like we have a couple others. So let me change the poll so you can see it again.
I fell into being an IT admin, but I really didn't get going until I got certifications and became a trainer. It's the certifications that really pushed me in the industry.
Well, and that was one of my other questions is, how important have certifications been to people? If we were having somebody brand new, for example, my nephew's girlfriend graduated a year or two ago from University of Washington, or UW as we call it here, with a bachelor's in chemistry. So yeah, she's in the STEM field, but she found she couldn't really do anything with a chemistry degree. And I said, hey, have you thought about tech? But, if I wanted to say, hey, if you wanted to be an IT pro, should I say, yeah, go get certified? Should I say, find something entry level?
As a woman, I think it gives you a leg up on credibility, and it gives you a leg up on your male peers who have been doing it but didn't go so far as getting the certs. Like the A+, the Net+, some of the MCSEs, that's what gives you that edge. But there's such a variety of certifications, I would be careful what I wasted my money on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a trainer, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I came in through training as well, and so I am a little bit biased because what I saw in the value of training was, when I saw people who started at the very beginning and took all the courses and then went off and did their networks, they were doing a really good job of putting their networks together. Where sometimes, we also did some consulting, and I would go in and their networks would just be, oh my God, everybody has admin rights and stuff is all over the place. And
Well, certifications don't guarantee the person's not going to suck.
right.
Yeah. But it definitely gives a woman a better place to start from than not having them. It means that you are there intentionally and that you intend to do something with it. I think for a woman, getting that extra training gives you the boost that you might need to overcome the fact that there's a young man just like you standing there. And the reason you're going to be chosen and he isn't is you went that next step.
Okay. What do the rest of you think?
I'd have to agree. I mean, I started back in the mid 80s. IBM's coming out in college, and that's where I got my passion for IT. But and managed to get a job in the IT department at a hospital as a secretary, and then just through self-study and that, and I started my certificate. The first one was NT Workstation 4, right? And that gave me the confidence to that, I am smart. I can do this because I was surrounded by men in the department, and I, never thought I was smart enough to be able to go any further. And that really boosted the confidence. And wrote more exams, became the exchange administrator, got that MCSC, and that opened up doors for me big time. And I ended up getting a job in Bermuda, and I still work for the folks there. And here I am 20 years later, right? But I apparently was the first MCSC on the island and female at that. And I was surrounded by guys, and I could tell you some stories back when I was there, 98 to 2000. But I'd have to agree that probably having that certification definitely gave me an advantage and opened up doors for me. For today, you always hear the pros and cons, paper certification. I'd have to agree, sorry with the previous person, that I think it's still a good idea. It gives you that extra edge, definitely. And I actually, just for the challenge, I haven't written an exam for years, and got the MCSA Office 365 just to dig into the books again and that, right? But yeah, so I'd have to agree.
And I have to also, because I started out with NT351, and I have to give a bit of a warning. Tammy kind of mentioned it. I don't know that nowadays the certifications have the same market value. Mm-hmm. I think they're not entirely as respected. However, they are something you're going to have that proves your intent and improves your skill. Your base knowledge over someone else. And as a woman, you might need that credibility. And also, Tammy brought up a good point, and I use the certifications the same way as well. It teaches you that you've got this.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So I would say certifications are a place for the younger folk to start.
Right. Yeah, I haven't been in IT over 20 years now. I questioned, should I pursue some security ones, some cloud ones, and I thought, well, I'll just challenge myself with these two exams again. And it was fun. I'm glad I did it. It was great. Did I really need it? No, nowadays I don't know. But it was good because there were a few things I came across in the studying for the exams that I might not have on a day-to-day basis.
I need those O365s and haven't gotten them. So I'm with you. I don't necessarily need them. I'm where I am because I've come so far, but I've not taken them and I don't know what's in them. So I really need to go there. But you're right. Once you are on this path, it never hurts to keep your toe in and keep looking. But I have found, and also certifications outside of Microsoft.
Right, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Cisco is important. Security is important. Starting with the CompTIAs, they're good, but I wouldn't disregard them entirely, even though they have weakened in the eyes of the industry, particularly for a woman.
Yep.
So, is there anyone here who does not have certifications, but still is working?
I don't have. Only thing I have is the MVP.
Okay, which is not exactly a certification. It's more of a recognition.
Not. Yeah, but I don't have any certification for IT, not really at all. So.
Okay. Have you found that it has made a difference in your career paths?
Not that I think of. No.
Is your career path as a developer?
No, not at all. No.
Oh, good, because developers can sometimes skip the certifications from my experience. But it's a little harder. What is your specialty, if I may ask?
I am doing actually like a Windows, SCCM, EMS, problem solving.
Okay, so you're troubleshooting in the cloud.
Yeah,
EMS.
troubleshooting, yes.
Well, some of
Okay.
it's on-prem too. So yeah, she's one of my MVPs in Configuration Manager and Intune. I only
Gotcha.
have
Okay.
3 women
Yeah,
MVPs.
because I'm trying to see how, as a woman, she managed to completely bypass the struggles the rest of us have. You know, trying to get that credibility to enter.
I think I kind of okay. I'm Chinese, so I moved in Finland like 18 years ago. So as an immigration, so I didn't actually have any time go to school in here because it was kind of like a home mother.
Yeah.
And I got in this company as like from the unemployed office, and I got in the company as this kind of trainee. So like that kind of trainee without any salary. So I have been there like an
You were
intern.
an intern.
Yeah, so
And so you got to work up in the company, in a single company.
yes.
That
Since
is
then.
an excellent way to go, because the rest of us are just out amongst the general populace trying to respond to requests for resumes on monster.com. You know, we're not in anywhere where somebody can see our value face to face. It makes it a lot harder.
Yeah. I think that I've been working in this company for 10 years, so
That does help.
yeah, so everybody kind of knows me, so I don't really need any paper certificate to prove who am I, so I just need to do my work.
Yeah, as long as that company doesn't go under or you don't get downsized.
Probably
You know?
not. Or it's a government company, maybe it doesn't go.
Yeah, but that's a good point though. Is you got in as an intern. I mean, that's a kind of a clever way if somebody can afford to do. You know, get in as an intern, prove your value, and they're already thinking about you as for your potential.
Now, I was having an interesting conversation with David James, who's the Director of Engineering for Configuration Manager, and he was telling me that in some of his travels and talking in different countries, that there are definitely countries in Europe where, as part of the educational process, you have to do an internship.
Ooh, nice.
And you know, so that was interesting. So there was a young woman, Sandy, if you remember Samantha, who's been working with Mirko. You know, she's coming. I don't know if she's on the line by any chance.
I don't see Sandy.
No. But yeah, she's been doing her internship with one of my other MVPs on Configuration Manager, and you know, learning a lot on that job.
Oh, that's
So it sounds
great.
like so we have one of us a Security Plus. Haley doesn't have certification. Kyla doesn't, is an associate's degree and been doing IT for 12 years. Beth says, I don't have certs. I didn't have certs when I started 20 years ago. Adrian says, I've taken some courses to build my own understanding, but haven't ever paid for a certification through one. And she mentioned MOOCs and, you know, like edX. So I do have some information on that I got from our training and certification group. Let's see.
This is Beth. I can't answer to whether or not certifications help to get through the first line of defense in HR. But I'm a tech screener for my domain in the services group, and even when I look at resumes, I kind of glance over the certs, but I don't always pay attention to them because, like you're saying, 'cause a lot of people can be just paper certs, and I go straight to the questions and just the knowledge itself, whether male or female. But I don't know how they get through HR to get to me, and I'm sure they probably do look for ways of, you know, narrowing the pile down. So certs probably is one of the quick ways that they can to either put a resume forward or not.
I'm wondering if in the final decision process between a young man and a young woman, if the certs are a deciding factor, if you have two that are tied.
Honestly, when I talk to the hiring managers, I don't know the hiring managers themselves what they look at, but typically they ask us for our input, and it's all, for me, it's all about how they responded to me, how they responded to my questions,
Right.
and the actual conversation. And I sometimes don't even really look at some of the the history or the education, because I want to, anybody can write anything down.
Mm.
I want to know, if I ask you this stuff, what are you going to say on the fly?
So nobody checks the actual validity of these certifications? Anybody can write anything down?
Well, I'm saying I don't know if HR does, but
I'm kind of assuming they are.
well, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to, the only way to prove it, I guess, would be to have your transcript from,
Yep.
because I guess there's like database. It's kind of like a degree, right? I can say I graduated from the University of Camp Swampy, but unless you pick up the phone and call them, do you know? I think there's a certain amount of trust that people put in.
Well, actually, when I have helped with the hiring process for my clients, and people have certifications listed, you can easily check the validity of those certs. They have a number,
Cool.
and so you can look. But in my experience, I've just found it as sort of something that's a tipping point. But in your experience, you guys don't even look at it. It's about how they work with you. It's your subjective opinion.
Yeah, can you actually, because again, I mean, somebody could have passed a Windows cert 5 years ago and haven't done anything with it, and they don't, I mean, I'm guilty of that, right? I passed some certs on products that I don't deal with all the time, and you asked me a question on something that I knew 5 years ago to pass the exam, and I don't have a clue now. First in, first out, right?
And that's where the invalidation of the certifications happen.
Well, no, I'm saying
it's kind of a shame.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
interesting.
Right. So it's the experience, but that's what I'm saying. Is to get through HR, having the buzzwords and having the certs, probably is a great way to get through the door, to get through the initial person that's filtering out resumes. But once you get in past that, it's for me, it's all about the knowledge. If somebody has 30
absolutely.
certificates, I don't really care if you have 30 certs. I want to know.
Actually, I'm suspicious of the 30 cert person.
Right?
Yeah.
What else are you doing?
Yeah.
So as far as certifications, one of my MVPs just tweeted this morning, which I hadn't seen before. There's this site called Your Acclaim for digital badges.
Yes, that's new for the millennials. They like badges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was listing some of his MCSE stuff up there as a badge. So I guess it's kind of like a consolidation point.
Yeah, but you have to, it's funny you mention that because, I've got certifications. I get certifications so that I can legitimately teach Microsoft official curriculum. So I have to qualify to do that, right? And so for me, the tests are very specific for a particular skill. But I found out that I don't automatically get a badge. I have to go to the separate third-party site to get the badge that associates with my certification. So it's interesting because a lot of us older folk are just not bothering with the badges.
Okay.
I didn't even know you could.
Yeah, you're supposed to. It's a big deal, apparently.
Okay, let me run around and get my badges.
Yeah, it's like playing video games and having to do side quests so that I get a badge. Ooh.
I know when I just did those exams again, and it had been many years for the MTSA. Like I just pulled it up now because I got the email about going to that site and getting the badge, and I'm like,
See?
okay, this is cool, but I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm not going to put it on a business card and all that. It's just okay, whatever.
But it helps legitimize.
Right,
but it's like on your resume where you can get the logo for your certification and put it on your resume like a badge.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but a hiring company may not know that you can go to you can see the acclaim. But it's interesting because that's purely internal. That's just for the kids to show off to each other, kind of.
Well, and Shona is saying put it on LinkedIn.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Can you? I didn't know that. That you can put your badge on LinkedIn?
Or is it actually your badge, Shona, or is it you just list your certifications as part of your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, I just listed my certification.
I think it depends. Some of them allow you to add the logo, but others are just like you fill it in yourself.
Oh, because pictures are better than just typing in the phrase. Eyes are drawn. So yeah, if I can stick a picture on that, that's cool.
Now, I want to go back to something. So Beth was talking about, just kind of the feel of the person and that being a major deciding factor, which to me says this is one of the reasons for disparity in the industry, because we know that, if a woman isn't clicking with the guy who's doing the interviewing, then that's going to definitely.
Been there.
Yeah, and so, that's why we talk about the importance of having more women managers, so there are more women in the interview loop, and even in the job descriptions that are coming in that people are measuring these candidates against. So are you seeing that as an issue for women getting into the industry?
Yes. Obviously there's massive sexism where I am, massive. So of course that's going to be a boundary, but I'm not sure exactly how to overcome that in like a general list as a tips and tricks that will work generally across all interviews. But yeah, if they're going to be biased against a woman, they're going to be biased against a woman.
But it can go both ways too, right? If I have a male I'm interviewing and he doesn't click with me, it could happen to him too.
Yeah, but that means you're not clicking with the vast majority of the interviewees.
Well,
because
that could happen. Just kidding.
Because they're mostly male. But it is, I think possibly, particularly with the millennials, there is a disconnect between the way they communicate and the way the interviewer communicates. And we could give them some guidance on how to cross that generational divide, because they might be shooting themselves in the foot and not know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Let's
see. So Kayla says you don't see any issues where you work, your husband works there, and you make more than him, and you have the same title job description. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, I've been here 16 years at Microsoft. I know women who have had issues. I have never had issues here.
I've had issues, but I live in southwestern Pennsylvania, and I have to deal with West Virginia, rural Pennsylvania, and rural Ohio. So that culture is very, very different than West Coast.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of large companies that have business centers in these areas because they are so cheap. And these young women are trying to get in, and there can be challenges, because there's an entrenched culture that's local.
Yep.
It's I've been with these folks for 20 years, so I haven't had to go out there and, interview and do all that and job hunt, which is very rare for somebody nowadays to be with a company that long. But when I was at the hospital, my equal at the other hospital in the same city was making a lot more than me, a guy. And that's where I got fed up. And at the time, it was frustrating, but looking back, grateful for that, because it encouraged me and pushed me forward to pursue the MCSE. And then when I interviewed for a job in Bermuda, I didn't get hired because they didn't want a woman, but this other company hired me. And then once I was there, again, there were a lot of scary things that happened with a few of the guys I worked with.
I can imagine.
Yeah, some really gross, and to the point that I thought, I'm going back in time here. I came here to enhance my career, improve my career, and the company that I was subcontracted with, they said, well, we'll hire you from the computer company. You keep working for us, and so there were. I'm sure we all have similar stories, but every time
maybe not all of us.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't. You're right. So,
yeah,
fair enough. Yeah,
younger,
sorry.
So they haven't gone through the dark years.
Yeah,
so,
and having those experiences, kept pushing me forward to say, I'm not putting up with this, and whereas some women, I don't know, maybe it did put a little, had a serious impact on pursuing that career in IT.
Well, and I was thinking what I'd like to do maybe for one of the other meetings is talk about, challenges. So this I wanted to kind of do the pathways getting in, and then we could have a session where we talk about like what strategies have you used if you have encountered issues that might be able to help somebody else who.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes the only strategy is to move on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Honestly,
in which
because
case it helps to
such
have
a
good network, which is another thing that I really want to do from here. is
Exactly,
clear that
yeah.
we're connecting with each other. Like we found a few people in Finland who now know each other.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, one advantage I find being a female in this industry is when I go to the conferences, the lineups for the bathrooms aren't very long.
Always. That's the first joke.
Well, and one of the things that we've talked about is trying to get together more in region. If there are user groups for things that you're interested in, post those up on the tech community site. And Shona, we should really start a thread for anyone who is going to Ignite, because
Absolutely.
if anyone's going there, we should all get names and figure out who's going to be there when and what sessions, so that if we're going to go to the bathroom, we can all go together.
And we have a diversity and tech lounge as well, where we can do meetups and mentoring. So more info on that if you are coming to Ignite.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was there last year. I won't be able to make it this year.
Oh no.
Oh,
I'll be doing, yeah. I'm turning the big 5-0 in September, so I need to travel. So, but I'll be
Congratulations.
following. Oh, thank you. I'll be doing it virtually, but yeah, it was a great experience to go last year, though. It was great. So hopefully a lot of you can get there.
I go every year since 2005, so
Oh,
I will
wow.
be there.
Okay.
Wow.
Expensive.
You will be there? That's awesome.
Yeah, always. I mean, it's my summer camp.
Oh.
Well, and Shona's putting together a diversity pre-day, so if you haven't already heard about that.
What
Yeah.
day is the pre-day?
It is on Sunday the 23rd,
Okay.
and runs from noon, and there's an evening reception after. It's a great place to meet
There-
a lot of other women in tech.
There are going to be about 1,000 MCTs volunteering, and a lot of them are women.
Oh.
And we do our orientation on Sunday. So it maybe we might want to find a way to include those women, because most of us are authorities, we're role models, we're leaders, because by definition it's what MCTs do.
Mhm. So are you guys going to be at the pre-day attending sessions, or just going to be there doing something else? And then maybe
If we're
hang out?
if we're volunteering, if we're staffing, we're obligated to be there on Sunday to do orientation.
Oh, is it all day?
It depends on what you're chosen for. Staffing booths is different than doing labs. Usually they keep it down to like maybe 2 hours, and sometimes depending on who's running that particular part, they will have it go twice, so you can do a morning or you can do an afternoon, but it varies. And they tend to wait till last minute to tell us anything. So I can't be sure, but it would be great if we could somehow include those women, because they do tend to be leaders.
Totally. Yeah, let's think offline on that, and then we'll
Okay.
catch up with you on it.
Okay,
Right.
gladly.
So there are a bunch of people on the call who haven't unmuted or maybe haven't even typed in the window yet. And I'd just be curious hearing from any of you what you think about getting into the IT pro world, if you have advices. I mean, obviously, Cal and I are very Microsoft centric because, coming from the MCT world, but other certifications that you know about. I think Tony mentioned, was it Security Plus, Tony? Yeah, so the CompTIA.
I'm sorry, it'll probably be easier if I turn my microphone on.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was getting my associate's degree, and one of the requirements was Security Plus. I also have been working for the as a contractor for the federal government for some time, and that's one of the certifications that they require. So.
Ah, okay. Has anyone else seen the CompTIA? Either the, gosh, I know they have the Security Plus, they have the Network Plus, and then I think there's just like a basic like hardware one.
A plus is
A+.
software and, I'm sorry, A plus is software and hardware. I teach those.
Oh, okay.
CompTIA certs are
Linux
awesome.
Plus too.
Yeah, the Linux Plus is really popular, and I really recommend it for some beginners.
Okay. So that
Yeah.
would be something that, we'd say for anyone new coming in?
Yeah. They are good, solid introductory certifications, particularly the A plus. The A plus actually is a two-parter. It's the software side and the hardware side. And back in the mid-90s, when I took it, it was hardcore. It's not as hard now. So I don't know if that's good or bad. But the Linux Plus is also really good, as Tony mentioned. These are really good certifications that are not Microsoft specific as well. And the Cisco certs are also really good in the industry, like the CCNAs and stuff. That's pretty hardcore. You're not just a software person if you're doing the Cisco certs. Those become priceless, and they roll into, the security certs, the CISSPs and stuff. Those are pretty heavy hitters, and security is a big industry right now.
Is anyone on the call working in security right now?
Tony?
Everyone should be working in security.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, security is kind of a second hat for an IT pro.
Right, but I mean, like, specifically.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not specifically in InfoSec. I've done some of that work in the past, but it's not my current role.
Anne, you said yes, are you in the security field? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're trying to do more in security and trying to get a lot of our technical members of our team and our MVPs like Amy certified right now on CISSP and others. We found that the certifications do help in terms of just adding some kind of instant credibility, but the experience always seems to take precedence over everything else. But we really try to encourage everyone to get as much certifications as possible at our company.
Okay. Yeah, I got my CISP
I just
certification.
wanted to thank you, Kathy. This is the first time I've joined this group, and so it's just nice to see all that you're doing to help encourage diversity in the IT area. So appreciate it.
Yeah, well, and in the non-dev world, not that we don't love devs, it's just I think we've kind
Yes,
of
I
tapped into
know.
something.
I mean, I have an engineering degree, but I went to the dark side, so I'm on the marketing side of the house these days. But I did want to see what was kind of going on because we really, I just personally am really passionate about trying to get more women to go into IT and to go into tech. I just think it helps the whole industry as a whole. So it's nice to see these things happening.
And I don't think marketing is the dark side.
That's right.
We got to sell the products, and yeah, I mean there's the fluff marketing, but there's the technical marketers who often know the products better in a very different way than the engineers who are working on them, because you really have to dive into all these different areas. I mean, look at someone like Michael Lee House, who was in marketing for a while. He's gone back to the product team, but
Yeah, and I mean, I really it's interesting to me because I started slightly more technical, and I just find I'm increasingly doing more and more that isn't as much hands-on. But I think to attract women into this space on a broad level, showing them that there are a lot of different roles in IT that you can play is important too. So.
Oh, absolutely, because I know, because I'm in training and because I often have an opportunity to work with doing essentially user group, but with the community youth who I normally never speak to. I'm not really a teenager trainer kind of person, but they flat out don't even realize there's anything but dev. They don't know that it's not only coding. I am so dead serious. They think STEM is coding. If a woman wants to get into technology, she either is a coder or nothing else. I've seen it time and again, and the adults in the room just stand there with nothing to say because they are not actually that technical. They don't know the industry. It's a shame. We need to let them know. There are, just as you said, there are other opportunities out there, desperately needed opportunities. They need women out there.
Yep. Now, a couple of things that I've found within Microsoft, I'll throw these up on the whiteboard here, and I'll put the link in. I was looking around at, actually, I think it's something that Shona sent me that had a report of different things that Microsoft is doing. So one of the ones that I saw that was interesting is we have a connection with Apprenti, which is actually apprenticeships in the information technology world. Adrian says, I hate coding. A little scripting is good, though. A little scripting can be helpful. And then for people who are military, we also have the Microsoft Software and Systems Academy. So if you know anybody who is military, former military, and would like to get involved in this, that's how one of my coworkers got into things here. Why is that not pasting where I want it? Trying to get this pasted in. Oh, I'll paste there. No choice but to script. That's what DOS was for. Yeah, now it's PowerShell. Maybe do a feature of some women who have tech careers without coding knowledge. That's me. And now, as for a list of IT pro roles that don't require coding knowledge, here's another link that I found was interesting. So the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics has this list of computer and IT jobs. And let me go ahead and share. Yeah. Go away.
Did you notice how almost all of them need a bachelor's degree?
Well, they say that they do, but if you click through, some of them do mention things like information systems. So, I'm looking down here and saying, obviously software developers, like we said, we love them, but, whole different place, web developers, different place. But then network and computer systems administrators, I think that's, definitely along where we're going. So it says typical, but it doesn't, again, if you're trying to get in here,
Right.
you had one in information systems is the degree name that I saw when I was looking around through some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like how to become one.
It's also highly dependent on what area you live. So
Yeah.
you're competing against people that are in your area most of the time, unless you're remote. But if you're living in a rural area, it's a lot easier to get away with not having a bachelor's or an associate's, because there's less competition.
Right, but what can be a turnoff is somebody without the bachelor's degree, who has the certifications, who has the hands-on skill, but they get blocked at the door because they don't have that bachelor's, but they live in a rural area, or they're a single mom, or something's happening that they can't get the bachelor's. This is a wall. This, you can't go past it. And a lot of people get degrees from online universities in underwater basket weaving.
Mm-hmm. And I started in an area, and the reason that I was able to get as much experience as I was able to get is because I started in a rural area that didn't require those types of degrees, and there wasn't that kind of competition to get started. Now that I live in the Northeast, it's a completely different ballgame.
I know. And obviously it's very competitive out there. And of course I am in kind of one of the more rural places you can be, other than deep in the Appalachians in Kentucky. But still, they by default stick that bachelor's degree thing right in the front. And it's a little discouraging for those of us who can't, for whatever reason, struggling to get the skills, can afford the certifications, focusing on what they're doing. And then there's, that bachelor's degree thing. I think what we need to let the women we're mentoring know is, as Kathy showed, on the first page it says bachelor's degree. But if you click on it, they say, equivalent or whatever. Is that where that was? If I were to click on one, we need to let our people know that that's not a roadblock, that it's only typical.
It is still a roadblock for several places, that they will not even look at you. It doesn't matter, that they won't accept equivalents. So not all jobs will even consider, experience as an equivalent.
Or certification?
No, if you don't have a bachelor's degree, your resume is immediately dropped. You can't even get through the door.
What a shame.
In some cases. It really is, because they really miss out on a lot of good people. in my opinion.
Yeah.
I would much rather have somebody who had actually done the work before for several years and know what they're doing and be able to prove that they've been able to do this rather than just because honestly a degree is great in that it proves that you can finish the program and that
Right.
you can make it through all those classes, but it's still just a paper degree until
Yes.
you actually do something with it.
And in some cases, it allows the person to actually not mature those 4 extra years, whereas the person who left high school and immediately started working actually is already 4 years ahead in terms of maturity. I've had that experience because I'm participating with my clients trying to get people in to kind of replace me once I finish my contract with them. And time and again, I see this, and it's kind of a heartbreaker that the people who can't, for whatever reason, and most of the time it's living in rural areas, it's having to pay, for your parents or whatever, that you just couldn't do it, and they do get blocked. It is a shame, but it's a given. It's what happens in our industry, and there's nothing to be done about it.
Now, one of the things that I have noticed is that typically smaller organizations, smaller businesses, and things like that don't have those types of requirements. It's generally with the bigger companies.
Right, but you're also limited in how much you can be paid and how much you can grow.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I know. I've been there. I am that person.
Yeah.
But if you start at one of the companies and then build up some experience.
Right, you can build experience. But what you need to do is get into some place, even as an intern, that will pay for your education. I know people who have basically indentured themselves to companies where they didn't want to be just to get the education.
Mm.
Yeah. It's a strange roadblock because, again, your major doesn't have to be necessarily what you're doing.
So does anyone else come in? Oh, say Haley's, I have a bachelor degree from an art college, completely unrelated to IT. Thank you, Haley. Yes, I am a theater arts major. Didn't plan on going to school. I prefer to get certifications instead.
Excellent. Even that bachelor's from the art college will still count in a lot of cases.
Now, talking about networking, I think is another important piece of it, because the reason that I got my job at Microsoft is, so I got into the training just, I was at a company that my boyfriend had gotten me into, 3Com, they used to do like a big network thing. And then they were contracting with a company called ExecuTrain, which was, more like the end user training stuff. Mm-hmm. And they got me my Novell certification. And then from there, I was able to jump to a company that was doing Microsoft certification. And then I was working on what was at the time Systems Management Server, which is now System Center Configuration Manager. And when they were doing the course for what was going to be SMS 2002, they asked Wally Mead, the guy who was legendary in the community about configuration manager, who could you work with? And he said me. So, it was really just this, not through the official HR, handing off the resumes, definitely through the back door. So it seems like that's another way to get around that. If you can make the connections and get somebody who can actually get the resume past the bots, the end run around the bots.
That's completely true. Unfortunately, it's very, very difficult to get in these places, to get to network like that, particularly for women. We don't I don't know, play touch football down at the local Y. It's how do we get in there? You had a boyfriend,
but you got user groups. Is anything?
Yeah, there's lots of things. I mean, I know, like, even here in Oklahoma City, there's like 3 or 4 different groups that are around IT, and some of them are presenting, it's just for community type stuff. And I know Microsoft holds a lot of open, I don't know what they call them, like basically open sessions where people can come in and talk. And I know, like, even some of the stores have different events. So I understand the argument against playing touch football, but
Forget
No, I
saying
love
gaming.
touch football, but it's hard to get in, you know?
yes and no. I mean, it's hard to get in, and I think for me personally, sometimes I don't want to focus on my gender as I'm trying to get into things because I don't want to limit myself. So when I sit back and I think of networking, I try and think of absolutely everything possible, and try and find different areas to go in, and try not to limit my own self, because I know
I don't think anybody intentionally limits themselves though. I'm
no,
sorry.
not intentionally. Not intentionally, but I know it's kind of that thing of it's going to be harder because I'm a woman, and I try and keep that out of my head as I go into something.
I totally agree with that, and I approve of that, and I think most of us do that, or a lot of us are looking for a job because we're excited about the thing we can do, and we're not the ones who are even aware of our own gender. It's about what we can do. It isn't until you get there that your gender...
I'm not disagreeing, because I'm with you. I've been doing this for years, and I can tell you stories where I've actually had interactions with other women that they didn't want to work with me because I'm a woman, but they started working with a man, and they were perfectly fine with getting the exact same directions from a man that they got from me. And
interesting.
To me, that was even more aggravating and more unexpected and more disappointing for me to deal with than when I had a man that didn't want to talk to me because I was a woman.
Yeah, I can see where that would be a problem.
There's both sides. So I'm with you. I've been there, got the ticket, got the war wound, got all of it. But that's what I'm saying is when I try and think of just everywhere that I could potentially network and just go. And I try to go to where I wouldn't expect to be able to network and just start talking to people.
Well,
and
I think your user group concept is a really great idea, and I am an MVP. I speak at user groups everywhere. I speak at SharePoint Saturdays all over the world, and I strongly encourage women to do these things, but it's hard for me to get the women to even know they exist.
Right.
Yeah, so how can we use this network to help get that word out?
Yes.
And that's
how do we get them here?
That's one of my earlier comments where I've seen this, and I've run into this time and time before, and actually it was pretty funny. I came from a support aspect, and I was at an event, and I was talking to this one woman, and she was the only woman on her team, like a bunch of people in the support area, and her frustration was she couldn't understand how the guys always seemed to know more than she did.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, I'm always struggling to find the answers, but they always seem to have the answer. And I said, do you want to know a secret? And she said, what? I said, it's the toaster. And she said, what do you mean? I said, well, as women, we sit down and we think, if I take the toaster apart, can I put it back together? And we won't take it apart until we know we can put it back together.
Right.
So a guy will just sit down and be like, woo, take it apart. And I said, that's what they do sometimes in support. We think if I give this potential or I try that, what's going to happen and what do I do at that point? Where they're just like, well, let's see what happens and figure it out from there.
Because they aren't punished like women are. I just watched a TED Talk about that.
Some of it's punishment, but some of it's also women think more. We think through, think holistically.
We do.
My point is, the point I'm trying to make is that sometimes I think as women, we need to encourage other women to get out of our own way. And like I said before, don't think about, I can do 10 things now, so that's what I'm going to speak to. It's, hey, you can do these 10 things, but you had to learn them, so what else can you learn? What else can you do? And put yourself out there with, I can do that, I can learn that, I can try that. And that helps unlimit ourselves to ourselves.
Unfortunately, and it shows the TED Talk was about the fact that there's proof time and time and again that just before middle school, girls always perform better than boys. And then all of a sudden we stop. And part of it is we are sort of trained to be cautious, You don't put yourself out there unless you're guaranteed a success. And it's sort of drilled into us so that we don't take these challenges anymore. We don't take risks. I think part of it is we as women, and I think you might be speaking to this, are not building a support center, a support network like men automatically have. They're encouraged, like, yeah, you tried to win, you got close, good job. We never, nobody gives us that kind of attaboy. And that's another thing I think we need to build into the people that we're mentoring. The chance to fail. Come and tell me the 3 things you failed this year. The new thing you did and failed. I'm cool with failure. Just go out and fail. Because they're not even trying. And we're trained to do that. We're trained. I mean, as an independent consultant and as a trainer, I have had that stripped from me. I have to walk up in front of everybody as plain and as small as I am and give it my best shot and get laughed at. But other people are not given the reward I get either. And I think that that's really tough. We really do need to build a network where women can be taught to take a challenge and fail, totally fail. Because think about what happens. Imagine what would happen to a woman or a young lady in this case who goes up and tries something and fail. What's the guys in the audience going to do?
Yeah, so we got to have more women in the audience and more male allies in the audience. Thank you, Tony, for coming, because it's not just the women, right? We have to get guys who are on our side and are going to be there to help support, and women there to cheer other women on.
How do we do that? That's what we need.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it's come down to networking. We got 3 minutes here. So Shona is saying we hope you can find the community and build networks on the tech community site. So I really do encourage you, like if you're going to go to a user group meeting, in fact, one of the reasons I moved this to the 4th Friday is our local user group meeting that one of my MVPs runs, or a couple of my MVPs run. If there's anyone in the Seattle area who wants to go to that, I would love to go to that with some other women there and say, hey, it's all system centers, so obviously it's something you're interested in. Eventbrite meetups. Yeah. So if you're going to go to one of those meetups, you're going to go to an Eventbrite thing, post it on that user group forum on Tech Community and say, hey, I'm going to this. Does anyone else want to go? Now, we did find that you can personal message people. So you can say, yeah, I'm going, and then, say PM me if you want to connect like that. Online
That's a great
communities
idea.
like Tech Community, yeah. And if there are others that you know of, post those on the Tech Community site.
Okay.
Because I think, that's, as we have a Config Manager Summit next week in London, not any women coming other than you. Well, post it, Sandy. Maybe someone might go if they knew that it was there.
Yeah, and especially if they thought.
No one has submitted, like no woman.
Oh, okay.
0.
Well, maybe if more women.
We sold out the ticket. Not sold out is free, but we have 120 person limit, so just not any woman.
Maybe if more women knew.
I don't know. We kind of put it in Twitter and Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a shame.
What I think is, what about posting after too? Is saying I was there. Not only hey, let's come, but I was there. Join me. I think that helps too. Is when you see other women going to things, not just that they are going to, but they actually did, and how much you enjoyed it, and then it's like oh, somebody's dipping their toe in the water, I can jump in too.
I do that too.
When I was at Ignite last year, I talked to a couple of female Microsoft folks there, and I said, there's not a lot of women. What's the percentage? And I forget what they said. Don't quote me on this. 10%, 15, whatever the attendance was. And I said, I'm surprised. I mean, again, in IT over 20 years, I thought there'd be more women at these events. I know it's still male dominated. And they said, well, there are a lot of women in the profession, just a lot of women aren't going to these events. And I thought, why? Why?
There is so many more. There's so many more now than there were 5 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I used to be alone in a room. Now there's at least 10 other women.
Right. Good.
They're usually with their male coworkers, though. It's kind of weird. But at least they're there.
We got to wrap up. But it sounds like a good topic might be networking tips, like how do we get people outside, how do we get to these other things, and ways that we've overcome challenges dealing in the male-dominated field could be another one. If you have other ideas, post them on the tech community. I'd really like to get more conversation going on that tech community site, because I think, we can't meet all that often, but I think we can have some really good ongoing conversations. And the more we start getting them up there, the more people will draw in. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see. So the next meeting, if we're doing the fourth Friday, will be Friday, July 27th. And it'll be noon Redmond time, 3 p.m. Eastern time. But if someone wants to see about starting up in another time zone, EU, and we can get people from the EU area on that, and I'm happy to start up other time zones. So I will sign off the recording now, but we'll get the recording posted up on the tech community. And anything that we can do to get people to the recording, get on Twitter. I'm CXP Kathy. Follow me. I'd love to follow you. And let's just keep networking, keep meeting each other. And if you've been quiet, step out next time. Get some stuff there maybe on the forum. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.